Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo and on today's video I'm going to be testing the RTX 2060 6GB. And the reason to bring this GPU is because I made a survey on my Spanish channel and this one won by a landslide against other cars like the 1070, the 5700, and I don't remember a couple of others. I don't remember which ones were, and most people were interested on me testing this one. And then checking videos on this channel and on my Spanish channel, I realized it's been a long time that I haven't updated the 2066 gigabytes. However, I have to say and explain that every time a new game, like an important, game comes out, I tend to test them like 8 or 10 GPUs in the video dedicated to that game, and most of the times I use the RTX 20 Super as one of the GPU testing GPUs. So if you're looking for a specific results for a specific game, just look if I have that game in my channel, if I have tested, and then you maybe that you can find the GPU you're looking for or a close one so you can have an idea, okay? But well, today we are going to be talking about the RTX 2060 Super. When the RTX 2000 series came out, I bought a 2080 Ti for myself. Okay, that was the GPU that I was using at the time, but I always wanted the RTX 2060 6GB, mostly because my whole point was to show people that you didn't need the 2080 Ti just to play with ray tracing, that you could enjoy the benefits of ray tracing even on the lowest tier GPU that we had at the time for ray tracing. And yes, you can. Of course, you have to lower your expectations. You have to be to understand that as any settings, you are not just going to cramp everything up and expect marvelous performance if you're not having the best of the best GPU. So you have to play with the settings, and maybe instead of using high shadows, just use medium shadows, but you're always going to get like a little bit better. And there's videos on the channel about just that, just ray tracing with the RTX 2060 Super, to show that you don't need the best of the best to enjoy of that, especially because you have DLSS. But now you have the option to also couple it with AMD FSR 3.1 frame generation, which means a GPU like the RTX 2060 6GB, even if it's 6GB, is going to last longer and you are going to enjoy more if you want to use ray tracing effects. Of course, the 6GB is a little bit of a limitation. You have to, sometimes choose your preset very well carefully to get the best out of it, okay? But I don't think it's such a limitation as many people may want you to think. However, just to see, let's go and check, and then I'll come back with my conclusions. And the first game I'm testing here is Robocop, a game that uses Unreal 5, and I believe that it looks quite good. It has a lot of destruction and it's quite a fun game. So in this case we're using 1440p. We have to go as high as DLSS performance to be able to get decent performance here, with medium settings, and you can see we can kind of hold up to 60 FPS. I have to say that I'm using all the Unreal features, even the reflections and global illumination and so on, so that's why it's a little bit heavier, but I think the performance is still quite good, all things considered, for this title. Now here on Ghost of Tsushima we are using again 1440p, in this case DLSS, but with the preset on high, and the game does hold 60 FPS most of the times. It can go a little bit lower, like to 55, 56 and go up, but I think it's a good compromise unless you want to go from high to medium, or of course play at 1080p, which is probably the best case for this GPU. But as you know, I like to push things further, especially because of the 6GB of VRAM, so I want to see how much we can squeeze out of our RTX 2060 Super 2066 GB, sorry. So as you can see, the game is running quite well and the quality is very, very good, so I will say it's a win. However, here in Horizon Forbidden West, I think is when things started to get a little bit tricky for me. I had to lower the quality to medium, which will be, I guess, around PlayStation 5 settings, but I had to use DLSS balance at 1440p once again. And even though it seems right now that it's not that bad, the game can go as low as around 45 FPS. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I should have played at 1080p or something, but well, I think everybody should be playing with a VRR monitor these days. So if you have one, then okay, you shouldn't be having too many issues. But yeah, I was a little bit you know, disappointed on this game. However, and then I was surprised by Last of Us Part 1. As we know, this is not a very well optimized game, and I had to use medium because of the limitation of VRAM, because while using high, the game will stutter a lot. So in this case, by using medium, even though it's a little bit over 6 GB of VRAM, I had no issues even in this intense scene, as you can see here. But you can see clearly that the textures are not of the best quality, but they are still quite good, I'll say. We had to use DLSS balance, as I said, medium preset, and we get around 60 FPS, but it can go lower. But I think it's quite playable for the sort of games we are testing here. And of course, as I said, if you're playing 1080p, it's going to be even better. Starfield is, well, unfortunately this game doesn't support frame generation from AMD, at least not the 3.1, so we can decouple and use it with this title. Here you can see that we add around 50 to 45 FPS using 1440p DLSS medium, and I try to avoid low as much as possible on most games because I don't think it's worth the sacrifice in light quality. I think it's too much, and I should make a video about it to show why I don't like to use low quality on modern games. So in any case, as you can see here, the game is running in this area above 45 to 50 FPS, but probably, and I'm quite sure it will go above 60 when you go to close environment. Alan Wake 2, we know it's a game, it's a very modern game, very dependent. It uses ray tracing even if you are not activating ray tracing, because internally it is still using some form of ray tracing. As you can see here, we have to use 1080p DLSS balance, and well, I would say it still runs quite good even at this resolution and quality. So we can use low if we want to, and we can use DLSS performance, and I believe we can sort of achieve 60 FPS. But if you don't mind playing at between 30 and 40 FPS, you can have a better image quality, but that depends on you. I'll say this is still a very good result, all things considered. Avatar is another one of those games that I had to go to 1440p DLSS balance and medium, and I was not able to get to a stable 60 FPS. But once again, I'm using the 1440p and not low. You can use low if you want. I don't particularly like ever going to low on most games because of things I should probably make a video and explain my own reasons. But well, I will say still, this is one of those games that also uses ray tracing. Okay, so well, the results are not as good as I wanted, but not as bad as I thought. So it's a middle point. I will have preferred to go a little bit, you know, to get those 60 at this resolution. Now Hellblade is the latest Unreal 5 game that uses everything that the engine can offer, and you can see here we're playing 1440p DLSS balance on medium quality, and this is a game that I will go as far as low if it's needed. Maybe DLSS performance, and probably we can get close to the 60 FPS if not surpass it. Of course, you're playing at 1080p, you can use still DLSS balance and low preset, and you will surely get to 60 FPS on this title. And as you can see, it still looks quite good. DLSS in this game is very well implemented, so you're going to have a great time, and so far the RTX 2066 GB has been okay. So if you have seen, I have like mixed feelings about the RTX 2066 GB, and the reason is because I feel the 2060 Super has like a more stable performance threshold. What I mean by that is that I think I know what to expect better about the 2060 Super. I tend to understand before I even play how I think the game is going to run. However, with the 2066 GB, it's kind of all over the place. I mean, if you're playing at 1080p and even some games at 1440p, you're going to be able to play any game that has been released even this year, and I think that is going to be released this year and probably next year. In terms of performance, it's okay, but it's the settings that you will have to dial and set up specifically for this GPU that you know, sometimes you think, oh, well, I should be able to play this at medium with the DLSS quality, and then you realize you're not getting the performance you expect. And I think there is two parts to this story. The first one is that the GPU, of course, is not as fast as the 2060 Super. That's normal. But I think it's more about the tensor cores not being able to really, you know, it's lacking a number of tensor cores. The 2060 Super has more. This means that the DLSS transformation happens better and you get more performance out of that when using DLSS. because I think if the DLSS work a little bit better, we will be able to get better performance out of some games. However, then some other games perform much better than you were expecting initially by seeing some of the other results. So it's kind of a mixed bag in that sense. That doesn't mean you're not going to be able to enjoy any game, because you can even play Alan Wake 2 on this thing, no problems whatsoever. So I think that's not a big deal, especially if you are able to dial some settings and in extreme cases just play at 30 FPS, which I don't think is a problem, or even 40 if your monitors allow. The last thing I want to say is the 6 GB of VRAM. I don't think they were an issue in this case, because obviously I choose the right presets, I set everything correctly, okay, so I never felt like, oh, we are lacking RAM, this is no loading, because we don't have RAM in game like The Last of Us Part 1. Of course, we have to go as low as medium, okay. We can use high because that requires 8 GB. Medium requires a little bit more than 6, but it wasn't an issue when I was testing, and things like that. So you have to, you know, set up everything correctly if you want to play the games, but I don't think they were much of an issue, to be honest. As long as you're not playing with like super ultra high res texture and ray tracing on all of that, I don't think you're going to have any issues. And I think we are going to be able to use this card for a little bit longer, and especially with ray tracing now thanks to FSR 3.1. So yes, there you have it. This is what I think about the RTX 2060 6 GB. I think it's, you know, a card that you can still use in 2024. Of course, it will depend on the price. If you can just pay the difference, it's not too much, go for the 2060 Super, but maybe you get this one at a very discounted price and it's still very well worth it, and you will be able to play everything at 1080p. And if you are one that is going to use also for emulation, you shouldn't have any issues emulating even the most demanding systems like PlayStation 3. The 2060 6 GB is going to be more than enough. So I hope you like this video, and as always, see you on the next one.